Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new edition of the Daily Debate. In tonight's show, we're going to be focusing on the youth of Egypt. Now, there are many programs, projects and governmental initiatives that were launched over the past few years and this year as well to really help develop the youth of Egypt. And we're going to be taking a closer look on some of these initiatives. But before we start doing that, let's check out a couple of the stories making the news today. And we'll start off with President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, who received a phone call from his Kenyan counterpart, William Ruto, today. During their telephone conversation, the two leaders discussed the latest developments in the Sudanese crisis. Presidential spokesman Ahmed Fahmy said they agreed on the significance of continuing efforts to reach a comprehensive and sustainable ceasefire. President el-Sisi and Ruto also expressed their support for peaceful dialogue efforts, as well as a resumption of a transitional stage with the aim of achieving peace and stability, in addition to enhancing the development and reconstruction path in Sudan. The two sides further probed means to push forward bilateral ties, especially at the exchange of trade level, in addition to expanding Egyptian investments in vital sectors in Kenya to consolidate the country's development efforts. Both leaders agreed to continue consultations and coordination over issues of mutual concern in the coming stage, especially a support of the joint African action in light of the vital role played by Egypt and Kenya in this regard. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi also held an interview with a Japanese newspaper, Asahi, one of the biggest and oldest Japanese newspapers, on the sidelines of the Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's visit to Egypt. The interview with the newspaper's editor-in-chief tackled a number of files, among them the Egyptian-Japanese relations and cooperation between the two countries in settling international issues and crises. During the interview, President el-Sisi stressed Egypt and Japan's keenness on boosting bilateral cooperation, hailing the strong relations between the two countries and cooperation in the field of development. The head of state also pointed to the ongoing coordination between the two states in the framework of Japan's presidency of the Group of Seven of the biggest industrial countries to find solutions for the dangerous international crises. On top of them, the Russian-Ukrainian crisis, in addition to food, energy and funding crises. The president also asserted Egypt's position towards the current crisis in the region, pointing to Egyptian foreign policy, which is based on refusing the intervention in other countries' affairs and respecting the principle of sovereignty and settlement of disputes through peaceful means. The president also presented Egypt's status towards the development in Sudan, pointing to Egypt's efforts to achieve a ceasefire and paving the way for peaceful dialogue and completing the transitional phase in order to protect the Sudanese people from the grave humanitarian threats of war. These were a couple of the stories making the news today, but now turning our attention to Egypt's youth. Now, the Ministry of Higher Education has launched the Be Ready initiative to actually help educate, train and prepare young and fresh graduates to really help them attack the labor market and get the best job opportunities. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
Within the framework of implementing the National Strategy for Higher Education and Scientific Research, which was launched by the Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research, Ayman Ashur, Minister of Higher Education, launched the Be Ready initiative to qualify young people and fresh graduates for the labour market in cooperation with the International Labour Organization in Cairo and the British Agency for International Development. The launch came within the framework of implementing the cooperation agreement that was signed between the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research and the International Labour Organization to launch the Higher Education for Career Counselling for Employment programme funded by the UK. Minister Ashur confirmed the interest of his ministry's strategy in the Professional Path Support File, as the ministry follows the regional approach to understanding various economic activities and concepts of comprehensive development at the economic, social and environmental levels, linking them to higher education and concepts of the fourth generation of universities in a way that contributes to supporting the ministry's role in serving development issues in society. Assistant Minister for Strategic Planning, Training and Qualification for the Labour Market, Ayman Farid, indicated the initiative aims to develop students' skills and qualify them for the labour market to find future jobs, meet the requirements of the local, regional and international labour market, provide vocational guidance and develop vocational and job services. To obtain better job opportunities, help support comprehensive economic growth through the country. The initiative aims to provide the necessary training for more than 2,000 young people and create more than 1,000 decent jobs by the end of the year. Meanwhile, Egypt launched its latest youth inclusion and employment project entitled Ready for Tomorrow, with the aim of supporting innovative business ideas and startups by Egyptian youth in the fields of renewable energy, information technology, tourism and entertainment. The 5-year-long project is the outcome of cooperation between Plan International, a Danish-Arab partnership program, and the Ministry of Planning and Economic Development, Ministry of Manpower and Reward 2030. The project aims to directly reach 6,600 young Egyptians and provide 4,260 jobs in Cairo, Alexandria and Asyut governorates.
لكل الناس في دايما حلم تحلم بيه، وانا كان حلمي على قدي ونفسي اعيش، ولما رميت عليك حملي شاركتني فيه، ايدك في ايديا من الاول ما بتسيبنيش. يلا يلا نكمل سكه مشيناها، يلا نفرح سوا باللي احنا حققناه، يلا هانت خلاص وانا وانت قلناه، احنا نقدر وده اللي انا وانت اثبتناه، وخلاص فاضل تكه 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 على اخر السكه، لسه تكه كان ناس كتير شكه 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 وشوفوا رحنا لفين، وخلاص فاضل تكه 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 على اخر السكه، لسه تكه كان ناس كتير شكه 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 وشوفوا رحنا لفين. وخلاص فاضل تكه 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 على اخر السكه، لسه تكه خطوه جابت خطوه 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 وشوفوا رحنا لفين.
يلا مصريين همتكم، ده الحلم خلاص فاضل عليه تكة.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And joining us here tonight in the studio, we are joined by Dr. Mohammed Roshdy, the banking expert and a lecturer at Cairo University. Dr. Roshdy, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. First of all, good evening for you and our audience.
Good evening,
and
sir.
thank you for this kind invitation.
Our pleasure. Now, Dr. Roshdy, half of the Egyptian population, they're under the age of 25. Over two-thirds are under the age of 30. So youth is an integral part of the Egyptian society, and the government has exerted a lot of efforts to not just encourage and enable youth, but to really integrate them with very early on within the Egyptian society, be it politically, in the administrative field, and economically as well. Now, the government has launched a few initiatives over the past few years. We're going to be talking on one initiative, for instance. We'll start with one initiative, which is the Be Ready initiative. And it's an initiative that really works on training and preparing young and fresh graduates to be able to deal with the labor market and get proper job opportunities. Now, how important is it to integrate and bridge the gap between the academic path and the professional path as well for the youth of Egypt?
Actually, I would like to start answering your question with one of the quotes concerning youth, which is youth are the hope of today and the joy of tomorrow. Actually, metaphorically, this means that nowadays, if we have this huge manpower and let me quote you that our population pyramid is totally different. We are a youth country, actually, and this is what the government is focusing on. One of the most important initiatives, which is Be Ready. And in my humble opinion, if you would like to build a country or to build a nation, you have to focus on health and education, especially for youth segment, because they are the future of the country, as you know, and our audience. One of the most important initiatives, which is Be Ready, it's one of the most, in my humble opinion, crucial initiative that the government and all sectors, the private sectors and governments are working together to let this initiative succeed in a good term and launch it in a good term. This initiative, one of the strategic objectives for this initiative is to combine the pragmatic and dogmatic side, which means that we have, if in our universities, we have a strong academic curriculum, actually, but this curriculum is far away from what the market is need. And as you know, one of the most famous quotes for one of the most strategic planning science, which is Henry Mintzberg, which is, it is easy to plan, but it is difficult to implement. Nowadays, if we have a strong curriculum in our universities, and one of our universities has a good ranking, especially governmental universities, which has a good rank, top with one of the 500 universities globally, which is, this is quite good for us, but we have a gap, let me quote you, between the pragmatic and dogmatic. The pragmatic, which means the practice side, and the scientific or the academia side. The gap should be narrowed. And Be Ready is one of the most important initiatives to decrease this gap, actually.
So what sort of preparation or what sort of training does an initiative like Be Ready initiative introduce or provide to the fresh graduates and the youth in general? And you can actually enroll and participate with such an initiative even after you finish high school. So what sort of training, or how does it bridge the gap between the academic and professional paths?
This initiative is focusing nowadays to give our youth segment, or our students, especially from the governments that graduated from governance universities, the skills that are required in the market, labor market. And this initiative, it's a strategic objective actually to qualify young people and recent graduates for labor market in cooperation with the International Labour Organization in Cairo and the British Agency for International Development, UKAID. This came framework of implementing the cooperation agreement that signed between the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research and international organizations, a lot of things. Mainly, they are giving the acquired skills. And for example, if nowadays you have a lot of academia and a good curriculum, but when you are going to the labor market, we need like 30-40% from what you studied. But show me, when I'm interviewing someone, show me what you can do. Not just tell me I studied blah 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 blah. This is not sufficient nowadays. You have to tell me that I have a good computer skills, Word, PowerPoint presentation, communication skills. Those are essential nowadays, essential skills. Be Ready is one of the most important initiatives that provide training for our youth segment, and it do a lot of things, great things. They are planning to have successor in each ministry and each senior things. And this is one of the most important things that we lost for a long time, that we don't have successors. This is not right. One of the famous quotes that the British guys are focusing on it: if you would like to be promoted, get someone to do your job. For that, the mindset for them that we have to educate people, to train them, to let them do our job, to be promoted. This is one of the most important initiatives. Nowadays in Egypt, we are focusing on to have successors, youth. You know that Egypt is one of the most, let me say that we have the pyramid of age is like around 60 to 50% of our total population are youth.
Yes.
We can count on them, and we have a lot of mega projects, and this is help us to have a lot of to bring FDI and to have infrastructure projects. And you can realize easily that the unemployment rate was decreasing. As far as I recall, in 2013 the unemployment rate reached to 13.4%, 13.5. Nowadays it's between 7.4, 7.5%. You can realize easily this is due to a lot of things. One of them, that we have a good infrastructure, we have manpower, which is qualified manpower.
Yes.
Let me say qualified manpower. And one of the most important things nowadays, in my humble opinion, that we have to train the new generation about the digitalization part, because as you know that the population nowadays, for the first time we have 5 generations, they are living together. The silent generation and the silent generation, which is between, as far as I recall, before the first war, and the baby boomers, and then after that Generation X and Generation Y, and the millennial, which they are technology savvy. And nowadays you can realize easily that the future, our future will be the technology. Everything will be managed, and they have the appetite for this. For that reason, the government is focusing to give them the required training for technology, and they will be the main pillar to let Egypt go for the digital part and to integrate with the globe.
Yes. Well, talking about being technology savvy, now the National Telecommunication Institute has launched a project, a 1-month-long project and a training, which is the Digital Egypt Youth Initiative. Now, it really talks about and tries to educate the practical learning of the ecosystem of the information technology and communications, to really not just help develop them in being technology savvy, but also in terms of job creation, creating jobs in terms of the information technology and communication. Is this becoming one of the major sectors in the labor market and the workforce, that it's not just the traditional jobs that we've been used to for decades now, that almost all sorts of jobs have an IT, artificial intelligence, telecommunications sector or part within each and every single job?
This is a smart question, actually. I would like to turn back to take you and our audience with what we are calling the evolution for everything. For example, when there was industrial revolution, you know, one of the famous European countries, a lot of people they are fearing to go for the industrial part because they will lose their job. Actually, this country come came actually one of the most important, and they have a huge railway station, and they have a huge things. What happened? They changed the mindset for the nation to learn how to serve this new technology. And what we are going nowadays, we are going to a new era, which is the digital era. In my humble opinion, one of the most important things, or one of the weapons that youth should have to have the digital part and develop themselves actually to focus on the digital parts. You said actually the AI, the artificial intelligence. Nowadays, one of the artificial intelligence is quite important. It's quite important. You can realize easily what's going on based on the artificial intelligence. You can realize you could have a tailor-made product based on artificial intelligence. We are focusing on your data nowadays, the mobile behavior. This thing which called the big data. The big data.
Yes.
MI, management information system, big data, artificial intelligence. What's going on? What's big data? Simply to simplify to our audience, big data. Which is huge data. For example, if we are focusing what's your behavior, you are going to access your mobile. You are searching. You are one of fans for football. And you are a traveler, a frequent traveler, you can realize easily that a lot of ads pop up for you, ads about football, about traveling, a lot of things. This is tailored for you based on your behavior. This is one of the most important things. This is consumer behavior. Who is managing the algorithm for that? The setup, the parameters, to get this big data and to tailor. This should be our youth, and for that reason, this is one of the most important things that the government nowadays is focusing on, and this will create, as you said, a lot of jobs for our youth segment. For the first time, you can realize easily that the government, the private sector, there is a great harmony between the government. All ministers are working together, and private sector for achieving 2030 Egypt vision actually, which is sustainability and as you said, the ecosystem, to have a sustainable things. In addition to, this is one of the most important things. As you know, this is if we have a sustainable technology, and this will help to create more jobs and decrease the unemployment rate.
Yes.
Actually, this will be booming for us.
Dr. Roshdy, now you're a lecturer at Cairo University and you deal with a lot of students, a lot of the youth, and you've mentioned and you spoke about how important it is to integrate the technology and artificial intelligence, for instance, and everything of that nature within not just the daily life, but the actual jobs and employment and job opportunities. Now, do you, when you deal with a lot of your students, a lot of the youth, do they understand the importance of not just using AI and this sort of technology for entertainment or for communicating socially, but also having it as an integral part for their future livelihoods and how to actually sustain a living?
Actually, what's going on nowadays, the mindset for the new generation is totally different. They are not like a lot of Generation X and Generation Baby Boomers. They are focusing they are not focusing that if I'm graduated from any faculty, actually, I would love to join a big institution and go and get my career path. Nowadays, they know well the importance to be an entrepreneur And this is how it's going nowadays. The easiest way to be an entrepreneur is to count on the artificial intelligence, the new technology, and they have the appetite. They are, as I told you and our audience, they are technology savvy. For that reason, they are going for that part, and they know well the importance for this. What is missing, in my humble opinion, they would love to have more training on that part. And actually, there are a lot of universities, especially governmental universities, they provide training. They did strategic partnerships with multinational companies. They get professional people to educate the student and give for them lecture. I saw a lot of initiative. The professional people, they are welcoming to go for public universities and give free lectures for the students. This is what can I say? They are feeling that we are giving back to our community. We are giving back to our country.
Yes.
We have to count on this, and this let the new generation know the importance for the AI, the big data, they introduced new concepts like the CRM, customer relationship management. For that reason, they have a lot of things, and their mindset is totally changed. As I told you, the mindset nowadays for a lot of students is to be entrepreneurs. And like, if I have 25, 26 years old, I will be CEO for X company that count or depend on what technology.
Yes.
And this is edge, by the way. Nowadays you can work remotely.
Yes.
The technology, you can export technology for any country. And you don't have the need to travel. You can do it from home.
Yes. Well, you spoke about the importance, or how important it is for the youth to really have their own businesses and startups and being entrepreneurs. And Egypt really has been working on developing entrepreneurship and encouraging the youth into having their own startups and businesses. For Egypt's 2030 Sustainable Development Vision, Egypt has its own initiative, Rowed 2030, that would help with the legal and consultancy work for startups, along with the marketing as well. Now, a lot of people want to start their own business and have their own startups and businesses and companies, but they always, or many of them, fall into legal problems because they're not aware of how the procedures should work, or they could fall into a bankruptcy, or financially they're not qualified enough to run the business. And such an initiative is important. Now, you being in the banking sector, do you have many stories of startups and entrepreneurs who have great ideas but fail in terms of the legal and financial or marketing side of it?
Actually, I have a lot of stories about this. This is crucial. They have, honestly, in our country, youth, they have a lot of challenges in terms of they have the vision where they want to go, but they don't have the vision from where they can start. They have two challenges: the legal part, which is how to overcome, how to establish company, how legally, how can they work, and one of the most challenging things, which is the finance part.
Yes.
Actually, how to finance. The government actually did a great initiative to get to simplify as much they can the legal part, and they have, let me quote you, the legal consultant, free legal consultant, or just simple fee for a lot of things, and they facilitate a lot of things, and you can realize easily that. And the most crucial things, how they can finance those projects. Especially, this is, you know, that I'm a guy with 21, 22 years old. They didn't have enough money actually to finance his project. What he can do, he would like to ask, from where can I get money? If I go to the bank, I would like to ask about money to establish my company. Please, the bank is asking for a bank statement, CAR, commercial register, a lot of things. Nowadays, I don't have this. What shall I do? What shall I do? Shall I stop my business, my plan? The government is working with the private sector, especially banks and a lot of multinational organizations. You can realize easily nowadays that a lot of private sectors finance a lot of startups. They are doing panel for a lot of projects. If you have a project and you couldn't finance it, you can go for an entrepreneur or a lab venture actually and ask, this is my idea and I would like to finance, and you have the visibility study, the marketing part, the legal part. And before that, a lot of banks, by the way, they have this, they are calling it venture, lab venture, or a lot of names for that. They giving them how to do visibility study, how to cover the legal part, how to finance, how to market to your product. And if you succeed to have a solid case and good projects and it is visible, the bank will finance.
So the banks would actually look for entrepreneurs or investors or potential investors who would actually who took the venture system, the questionnaires, the tests, the criteria, maybe even take part in these initiatives such as the Roshdy initiative or Be Ready or Intilaq initiative. Now, so banks look for entrepreneurs who actually took these things and they would give them a priority to finance their startups.
Actually, banks, in addition to multinational organizations, they are financing that. They are considering this part of CSR, corporate social responsibility. As I told you and our audience previously, this is one of the most important things to give back to your community. We are not working alone.
Yes.
We are working together. Working together to grow and help others to grow.
Yes.
This is one of the most important things. The mindset for multinational organization is totally different, international. Any organization actually, to grow and help others to grow. This is positively reflect on the strategic objective for the country and the presidential leadership to have a solid economy and a diversified economy. As you know, and our audience, our GDP structure is consistent actually three main parts, which is the industrial part, the agriculture part, and the service part. Technology is part of the service parts, which has the highest added value. For that reason, if you would like to have a solid GDP structure, you have to focus on this part and to develop. And in my humble opinion, one of the most important things to invest in technology, and nowadays the presidential leadership and the government is focusing on that. And positively, we will bear the fruits for that within the coming years.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Egypt has been working on enabling the youth to invest themselves within their own local communities. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
A new project has been launched in Egypt being designed to equip and encourage young people to invest themselves in their local communities and wider society and promote these social conditions that will enhance their freedoms. The 5-year project, Youth for an Enabling Society, will focus on developing social cohesion amongst youth aged 18 to 24 and between them and the rest of society. Together, they'll explore themes of diversity, personal responsibility, and creative self-expression, and in so doing, encourage justice and reconciliation between diverse communities in Egypt. The project is supported by the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation. Program activities will lead to the creation of media content that will be broadcast on digital media platforms. Workshops will allow young people to establish relationships with people from diverse backgrounds and explore themes of justice, human rights, and care for the environment. At a later stage of the project, the youth will be trained in filmmaking and photojournalism as a healthy method of social involvement. Learning about innovative projects that have creatively addressed social needs will also equip them to use entrepreneurship to solve community problems. Since the project began, the team have already identified local partners and visited an Egyptian environmental initiative. They also met with many experts in this field. Meanwhile, the Minister of Youth and Sports, Ashraf Subhi, said the Eid Sweeter initiative aimed to transform youth centers into community service centers to build Egyptian character, especially in light of the construction boom witnessed by sports facilities nationwide in recent years.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, continuing our discussion with Dr. Roshdy. Now, you spoke about the youth not just working on having their own startups, their own business and entrepreneurs, but also really giving back to society. And there is Youth for an Enabling Society, which is a 5-year program that works on investing the actual youth within their local communities, and also the initiative Eid Sweeter, which is about transforming youth centers into community service centers. And it is a win-win situation for the private sector and the governmental or the public sector as well, in terms of it's not just a governmental thing, but also banks or multinational companies would work and participate with such centers and initiatives. As you've mentioned, we were talking off air regarding having incubators or accelerators, really working on the sustainable development vision. So can you please shed more light on this?
I would like to start or quote you with win-win situation. Yes, it's win-win situation for the government and for the private sector. Nowadays, the concept of incubators or accelerators, one of the most important concepts that introduced in our community or our country actually. The concept is we are getting youth segment and we are trying to empower them. And if you have like handcraft things, you have a good idea, you are technology oriented and you would like to do application with competitive edge, it should be different. Yes. And you will add to have a competitive edge to have ROI, simply ROI, which return on investments. I would take you, and in the incubator, what I will do, I will give you the know-how to do the visibility study, the marketing part, the facilitate the legal issues, and I will finance. If you have a competitive edge and a good idea, and I would like to stress on the competitive edge, you are not just copy-paste. If you would like to copy-paste, this is not part of incubators. You are doing normal things. But incubators for entrepreneurs that would like to have a good project, new idea, but they don't have the money and the know-how. The multinational organizations or institutions, they are focusing to get those youth to empower them, and this aligned with the presidential leadership vision and 2030 Egypt vision to empower youth actually. And they are giving them the training, the acquired training, the money, the finance. At the same time, this is win-win situation for the youth, for the economy,
Yes.
and we are creating a lot of jobs. And what about the multinational organizations? They have a tax incentive. This is part of the CSR, corporate social responsibility, actually, and it's part, the government, they give them tax incentive. This is part of their expenses. For that reason, in my humble opinion, it's a win-win situation for the government, for the youth, and at the same time for the organization, which finance and doing marketing for itself.
Yes. Well, do you also feel, because a lot of the youth, they know they want to have their own startups and their own companies and become entrepreneurs, but a lot of them as well don't know exactly what do they want to do, or what sort of a product they want to work on, or what sort of service they want to provide. So do you think that having these community service centers, the youth centers turn to community service centers, will give them the chance to have hands-on experience, really try and figure out what it's like to work in this service, in this project? What does the community or local community needs? What can they actually provide that has a competitive edge as well?
I believe that youth, they have the motivation, they have the power to do a lot of things, but they have a lack of experience, actually. If we can give them the acquired experience, the know-how to do things, and they have the motivation, the power to do things, they will run fastly, and the run rate for achieving the goals, for the sales, everything will be doubled. And I can easily explain for you and our audience a lot of stories that I faced personally with a lot of entrepreneurs. I know one of them nowadays. He is CEO for one of big companies. The idea started with one of the incubators, and they did just an application. Can you imagine? Just an application. And nowadays he is being the fruit for this application.
Yes.
But he has a competitive edge. And by the way, one of the multinational organizations adopting this guy and his team, and they financed his project.
Yes.
And nowadays they are paying for him money to have a strategic partnership.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as Dr. Roshdy has mentioned, this is one of the examples, and it's a very attractive and could prove to be a very lucrative prospect to have your own startup, your own project and company, but only if you have a bright idea with a proper competitive edge. And obviously you need to overcome a lot of the obstacles, be it legal, marketing, financing, and all of these obstacles can be overcome by a lot of the governmental initiatives that really works on preparing the youth since their graduation, or even before that, at least after finishing high school, to prepare them into the labor market. A lot of governmental efforts, but hopefully this will all be for the benefit of the Egyptian youth and the Egyptian society as a whole. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of the Daily Debate. But now I'd like to thank my very distinguished guest, Dr. Mohammed Roshdy, the banking expert and lecturer at Cairo University. Dr. Roshdy, thank you very much for joining us.